Way to go, Albert. Good morning, everybody. It's 7 o'clock, said the radio announcer in a cheery voice. Albert the absent-minded alligator opened his eyes and reached over to turn the radio off. That was a good sleep, he said with a big yawn. But I guess it's time to get up. Albert rolled out of bed. He put on his bathrobe and went to brush his teeth. Then he went to the kitchen to have breakfast. When Albert sat down to eat, he looked at the notes on his bulletin board. Let's see, he said, I have to bring my old newspapers, bottles and cans to Rupert's house at 9 o'clock so we can take them to the recycling plant. I guess there's no need to rush, Albert said to himself. I still have plenty of time. The meal hasn't been delivered yet, and it usually comes around 8 o'clock. So Albert didn't hurry. He had another piece of toast and read a magazine. He washed the breakfast dishes. Then he got dressed and made his bed. When Albert was done with his chores, he thought the meal must be here by now. I'm sure it's past 8 o'clock, so Albert went out to get the meal. But when he opened the mailbox, it was empty. I guess there's no meal for me today, Albert said, scratching his head. Well, I'd better be going. I don't want to keep my friends waiting. Albert put his bundles of paper, bottles and cans into his wagon and went off to Rupert the resourceful rhinoceros's house. Meanwhile, the Alphapets were busy loading Rupert's van and wondering where Albert was. Ollie the obedient ostrich pulled out his pocket watch. It's 9 o'clock, Albert is late again, he said. Why can't he never be on time? He has some nerve to keep us waiting, said Delilah the demanding duck. I'm really surprised, said Katy the kind koala. I know Albert wanted to help us. Soon everyone was packed on the van. Rupert looked at his wristwatch. It's 10 o'clock, he said. We can't wait for Albert any longer, We'd better go before the recycling station closes. That's the truth, said Tina the truthful tiger. We have a lot to do today. Let's leave a note for Albert telling him to meet us for lunch at 12 o'clock noon. Katy said. Good idea, everyone agreed. So the Alphapets left a note for Albert. Then they jumped in the van and drove off. Just as the van drove out of sight, Albert arrived at Rupert's house. He looked around and wondering where his friends were. Then he saw the note. Dear Albert, it's almost 10 o'clock. We couldn't wait any longer. Meet us at the Magic Marble for lunch at 12 o'clock noon. Then we'll go to the movies. From Katy. Then he saw the note. Uh-oh, Albert said. I didn't know it was so late. I'd better be on time for lunch. So Albert went back home. I guess I'll read my book until it's time to go to lunch, he said. I'll know it's time to leave when I hear the church bells ringing just before noon. Albert settled down in a big chair and opened his book, but before he knew it, he was fast asleep. Ring! Albert jumped up and answered the telephone. It was Delilah. Albert, why are you still home? She cried. You were supposed to meet us at lunch at 12 o'clock noon. I'm sorry, Albert stammered. Delilah interrupted. Sorry, schmorry, she said. You're just plain absent-minded. But, Albert said. No buts about it, Delilah shouted. We're going to the movies soon. The show starts at 2 o'clock. Be there, and Delilah hung up. When the Alphapets finished their lunch and walked to the theatre, when they got there, Ollie looked up at the clock. It's almost 2 o'clock. I hope Albert gets here soon, he said. But Albert wasn't there at 2 o'clock. He was late again. By the time he showed up, all the Alphapets were angry. It's not unfair to keep us waiting, Ollie said to Albert. Now we can't see the movie, Delilah complained. First you were too late to help us load Rupert's van, then you were too late for lunch, and now you made us miss the movie, Tina said. Tears started to roll down Albert's cheeks. Oh, poor Albert. Everyone's being so mean to him. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be late, he said. And it's not because I'm forgetful, it's because you don't have a watch, Katie asked. Well, that's the part of it, Albert started, but I don't have a watch because why? Tina asked. Albert took a deep breath and whispered, because I don't know how to tell the time. The Alphapets could hardly believe their ears. Now they were no longer. They felt sorry for Albert. I have an idea, said Rupert. Since we're too late for the movies, let's go to the museum. There's a special exhibit of clocks. We can teach Albert how to tell the time there. Everybody agreed that Rupert's idea was a good one, so they went off to the museum. At the museum, the Alphapets were amazed to see so many different clocks. They were grandfather clocks, cuckoo clocks, sundials, horse-clocks, computer clocks, electric clocks, mechanical clocks, water clocks, alarm clocks, and even music box clocks. You see, Tina said to Albert, all these clocks look different, but they all measure time in some way. But how can you tell what the time is? Albert asked. Katie pointed to a big clock on the wall. See those two pointers? They're called hands. They tell the hours and minutes when the long hand points up to the number 12. And the short hand points exactly to another number. That number tells what hour it is. Can you tell what hour it is on the cuckoo clock? Tina asked. The short hand pointed exactly to the 3. I guess it must be 3 o'clock, Albert said. Way to go, the Alphapets cheered. Albert looked at another clock. The shorter hand pointed exactly to the 5. It must be, Albert started. Go on, Tina encouraged. It must be 5 o'clock. Way to go, Albert, they all applauded. That's 4 o'clock, that's 7 o'clock, that's 1 o'clock. Now Albert was getting excited. He ran from one clock to the next, telling its time. Suddenly Albert stopped his tracks. Uh-oh, he shouted. This clock must be broken. The short hand is struck between the 4 and 5. Ollie put his arm around Albert's shoulder and explained, when the short hand points past the number, it means it's the past hour. The short hand on this clock tells us it's past 4 o'clock, but not yet 5 o'clock. So how can we tell what time it is? Albert asked, scratching his head. That's why there's a longer minute hand, said Rupert with a grin. It counts the minutes. There are 60 minutes in an hour. Rupert pointed up to the clock and said the minute hand points straight up when the short hand points exactly to the hour. Then it moves around the face of the clock, 1 minute at a time. In 30 minutes, it goes halfway around the face of the clock. Then the longer minute hand points straight down and we know it's half past the hour. Albert thought for a while. Then he said with a smile, I guess that means this clock says 4 o'clock. Way to go, Albert, Ollie said. You could also say that it's 4:30. That means it's 30 minutes past 4 o'clock. Albert read the time on more clocks. That's 9:30 or 9:30. That's 2:30 or 2:30. And that's 10:30 or 10:30. Way to go, Albert, everyone cheered. Now I know, Albert said, and as soon as I get a watch, I'll be on time, just like everybody else. You'll see, I'll never be late again. As they were getting ready to go, Katy noticed there were beautiful clocks and watches on sale in the gift shop. She whispered something into Rupert's ear. Rupert smiled, and whispered into Tina's ear. Tina nodded and whispered into Ollie's ear, and Ollie whispered into Delilah's ear. Then Katy ran to the shop to buy a special present. Albert was so busy looking at the clocks that he didn't even notice. All the Alphapets left the museum. The sun was set. As the Alphapets left the museum, the sun was setting. I guess we better go home and it gets too dark, Albert said. Yes, Kate agreed. It has been a busy day, but we still have one more thing to do. We do? Albert asked. I hope I'll be on time. You're on time, Tina shouted, just in time for a special surprise. Then with a big grin, Katy handed Albert the package she had bought. Everybody watched as Albert unwrapped the box and opened it. It's a watch, Albert shouted as tears of happiness filled his eyes. Ollie adjusted the time on the watch, and Katy helped buckle the watch band on Albert's wrist. Then Katy helped buckle the watch band to Albert's wrist. Can you tell what time it is now? Albert, Tina asked. Albert stared at his watch for a few minutes, then he smiled and said, Yes, I know what time it is. It's 5 o'clock. But more important, it's time to say thank you to all my wonderful Alphabet friends. Way to go, Albert, everybody shouted. The end.